Good afternoon, ladies and gents. I believe we have given everybody enough chance to get joining. We are now starting. Welcome to the Property Investment Beyond Lockdown webinar. For those who do not know me, my name is YDT. I am currently the founding CEO of YDT Group. YDT Group is a group of companies that have come together to create the world's first one-stop property shop. YDT, our main mandate is to help people create wealth through property ownership. And today we have decided to bring all these webinars, starting with the first one is also and we'll be doing a webinar every week up until the lockdown is finished. And the purpose of this is basically to keep everybody aware and understand the impact of the lockdown on their personal finance and on your property portfolio if you have, or the portfolio that you are considering to build here going forward. And I will then be going through the slides with everybody. We will be finished at 13:35, and from 13:35 we'll be taking questions. So if you could please write down and note down all your questions, and we will then continue with the slides. Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes. But there's a lot of echo coming from your side. I don't know if you can do something about it.
Yes, we can hear you. If you can unmute.
Yes, I can hear you.
Everyone.
But there are echoes.
All right. I perhaps think it's my new office in the house that I set up. So please excuse the echo. Let's try to go with it for now. Is that okay?
Yes, but Yabi.
Thank you. All right. Here goes. I want us to start with the basics. For those that are joining on Monday, you will find that most of the content is similar to Monday. And I chose to repeat most of the content simply because most people did not link in on Monday. And there were some extra questions that popped in after, even during the Monday, that we are going to answer as well. I want us to start with the basics. The basics, my style of presenting or of showing these things is such simple in such a manner that if my 6-year-old daughter can understand, then everybody can understand. So please be patient if you wait a slide here or to understand this. Please be patient with us. All right, what is property? I will go with the legal and accountant's definition. Property is not just a house or a piece of land. It is everything that you own, that you can touch, is property. Your phone, the earphones that you are listening through, the laptop or your phone that you are using today is property. And that falls under one of the two categories. There are two categories of property, which is movable property and immovable property. That is why you will realize as well that when people get married, they have to choose and decide which marriage regime in community of property and out of community of property. Of course, I will not, that's not the purpose of this working. But I wanted us to all understand what property means. I am going to mute all the mics automatically because some people seem to not understand or they do not get the memo. All right, then as we go over to the second slide, and then immovable property. Immovable property is not referred to as a house or a structure that stands. Immovable property is referred to as land. Land is what is always referred to as immovable property. Even in the title deed, or have said what you are about to say, because you are going to invest own property yourself, you'll see that on that property, on that title deed, they will not show the specific the house. That is a 3-bedroom house. It's not the particulars of the house itself. But it's only description, the size of the land, to the servitudes of the land, to the restriction of the land, and everything is referred to as the land. And therefore, when then we look at the structure, it is described as improvements on the property. All right. Now, what is investment? Investment is something that you spend money and energy towards, with the intention of getting returns over a long period. Now, this definition goes beyond many things. I know someone is already, that reminds me of that. Yeah. An investment is money and energy towards it, with the hope of getting return. And that's the approach that I'd like us to take and to look at, and as we enter into this discussion about property investment. Please be mindful that it is not something that clear over time, or rather immediately it is going to take time to give returns. All right, and then as I move on, I am picking up many movements. I'm doing this alone from home, so please understand, let's be patient, and as I continue, we will raise certain things later on. Please keep your questions in the meantime, and then we'll address them later. And then, now, immovable property, is it an asset or is it a liability? Now, again, going back to our professionals, which is mostly attorneys and accountants, those are the people that we always bump heads with when it comes to such. Because they always define it as an asset. Because it has to be put as an asset, and it's put like that as an asset. But in this instance, when you are a property investor, look at it differently. If you look at a property as an asset every time you buy it, then you will not be able to grow the balance sheet. Now, a property, let's start with saying what is an asset to an investor. Excuse me. A property to an investor, or an asset to an investor, it is something that gives income. Your vehicle, if you are paying an installment and you are using it to go to work, and it is not helping you create income, it is not an asset. An asset is something that is helping you create income to grow your wealth and to grow your income. A liability is basically what takes away from the income that you have generated through your assets. And that's the rule that we all need to adopt when we build our portfolios. Yes, when we do our estate and when we do our antenatal contracts, they look at it differently. But I want us to adopt a different mindset as how we are investors going forward in all these things. All right, now I would like us to get to a place where we make the property of our investments, not just only property, but our investments a day one asset. What is a day one asset? A day one asset is an asset that from the first day that you purchase breaks even and even gives you extra profit on day one. So the day one asset, it makes profit, it is a right purchase, it is in the right location, and it is the right price. Now, somebody might look at the right purchase and the right price and believe that might be the same thing. Let's go through them one by one. Making profit in property. What I will do, I will create one example scenario that we are all going to go through. So please bear with me and let's follow this example going forward. You are purchasing a property to the value of 500,000. This property, your purpose is for it to be an investment. Now, there are two types of properties we're going to look at. The property types we're going to look at this example. The first one is when you are buying it as an investment. The other one is when you are purchasing it as for you as your primary residential home or your primary residence. But most of the time, because the webinar is about investment, we'll mostly be looking at it as on the investment side. For it to make profit, it is now, therefore, it means on month one, take an example that you have bought this 500,000 rand property through a bank. On month one, you must pay installment. The property will draw rates and taxes from the municipality. It will also draw levies if it is in a complex. If it is a flat or an apartment or a townhouse, it will then also draw monthly levies. The purpose of the levies, it is for the use of the body corporate. In every complex or apartment, there is what we call a body corporate. Others will call it a managing agent, but it's a body corporate that then sees to the interest, to the common interest of all the owners within the complex. Now, the common property is the gate, the road you drive in to get to your apartment, if there's a park within the development, the park, the swimming pool, the outside of the building, the insurance of the structure on the outside, you are only responsible for the insurance on the inside. Now, after taking into account all those payments, then the property makes money. Now that is making profit on day one. And those are the type of investments that you should seek. The second point is the right purchase. The right purchase is most of the people do not see the, should I say, the benefits or the repercussions of the wrong or the right purchase at the beginning. You only see that at the end when it is time to sell, when it is time to liquidate, or when the person passes away. The right purchase is a combination of everything. It is a combination of the location, the price, the structure itself, the feasibility of the property itself. Then that makes it the right purchase. I will make an example. Let's go back to our 500,000 purchase. You have made your 500,000 purchase of a property, and after a bit of a while, you then decide to sell. Now, when you bought this property, the property was worth 550,000. But because you did it by yourself, or you were done in, or you did not do due diligence, please excuse me, or you did not do due diligence, you bought the property overpriced. The property was worth 450, excuse me, now you bought it for 500. You do not see that at the beginning because it is making a profit, it is covering everything, and therefore later on when it is time to sell, maybe it's about 3-4 years later, and at that time the value is actually 500,000. Now you want to sell hoping to make profit only to just only break even. And there's many other examples that go with the property being the right purchase. Location we've all heard. Every seminar, every book you've read, every place you've been to, when they spoke about property, they spoke about location. Please excuse me. The benefits and the pros of location, just for us to break it down, because somebody else might be thinking, what is the fuss about the location of the property? There is many things, mostly when you're investing, that play into effect to the location of the property. First and foremost, your tenants. Is it accessible to the type of tenants or to the market that you are targeting? That's what makes location. The price you bought it for in that location, can it be able to sell? First of all, is the price fair? Can it be able to sell at a good price again in the very same location that you bought it for? What are the neighbors' properties looking like? We must also be able to forecast the value of the property. When you look at the properties around, are these neighbors going to add value to your property, or are they going to cause the depreciation of your property? Now, these are the things that are very important to the location. You yourself, you can even check on these property websites where they sell properties. You can even go check a similar property that you can take in the township. that may be 900,000. The moment you take it to the northern suburbs of any town in the country, you discover the value of the property almost doubles. And the only reason is because it's the location of where it is. Of where it is, the townships previously have been downgraded. As we all know, the history, I will not get into the history of property placement of the previously disadvantaged people, which is the black people, and therefore what it meant to the property value, what it meant to the space, what it meant to the infrastructure. All those things led and eventually contributed to the value of the properties being brought down to what they actually are. And those are the things that some of us that are in development are starting to work towards, so that the value can be established also in the township. Nonetheless, the location matters a lot in the price. What is the price? What is rather the right price? The right price for an investor, not according to valuation. Remember, the price is determined by location and how the property looks, and it is declared on the document that we call a property valuation. Now, the right price is 10% at least below market value for an investor. Reason being, when you let me start by the appreciation value of property in South Africa currently. The average appreciation value of property, of course, it is based on towns or cities and municipalities as well, and that is based on economic activities. But when you average it out, it is between 5.5% and 7.5%. That is the annual appreciation rate of properties across the country. Now, when you buy 10% below value, you are already a year and a half to 2 years ahead in terms of value. Meaning, how does then that help you? That then means that if you then want to liquidate a year or two, if you have to get out of the deal for some reason, maybe you saw a bigger deal, you just want to liquidate and you want to put your money elsewhere, then immediately you are also able to even make it day one profit in terms of selling. So the deals that you want to get is the deal that says 10% below value, and that's the ultimate property deal. Should then a deal not be at that level, then it's okay, but try to get it to that level as much as possible. Now, we are going to continue to log to unmute the other people. Sorry guys, I just don't like to be distracted. All right, now, how do I prepare to buy? Because buying comes over a period of time. Thank you. I have a secretary who has brought me my honey water that I forgot to drink. Thank you. All right. Now, how do I prepare to buy? Remember, we've just looked at now what is a deal. In other words, you have a picture of a deal already. Now you are thinking, okay, I think I'm ready. And the reason I broke it down in this manner is because many people would like to invest in property. 9 out of 10 people that you ask, what are their future plans, what would they like to invest in, 9 of 10 they will say property. However, the current rates are saying 10% or rather 12% of properties, or rather all properties are owned by 12% of the population of people. So 88% of people currently in South Africa are living in properties that they do not own. We're talking on residential property as it is now. And this you can find on the statistics on Property 24, Deeds Office, and even on Stats SA. Now, we then need to prepare to get to the place, meaning it's the first step of taking action to being ready to purchase. All right? Now, these are the points that we need to look at in preparing to buy. And when you are our client, we walk you through this seamlessly, because a one-stop shop, you only deal with us, you don't deal with many other people. The first point is when. When do I buy? Yes, I know what's the best deal. Yes, I know what's my objective, whether to stay in or investing. I know that I will need to make it profitable on month one. Yes, I know all those things. However, when do I strike? When do I make my first deal, and when do I make my move? Now, there are two most things that I always advise for people to look at, which is the market and the time of the year. The time of the year is not the biggest as opposed to the market. The buyer's market is what makes the most for you to decide, because you are the buyer in this instance. When you are the seller, we will look into that in one of the days, in one of the weeks as we do the webinars. Now we're looking at you being a buyer. You want to make a purchase, to add on to your portfolio or to start your portfolio. Currently, the market in South Africa is the buyer's market. And it being the buyer's market simply means it is your best time to buy. What does it mean for the market to be a buyer's market? It simply means there are fewer buyers able and willing to buy than there are people selling their properties. Ratio. Now, meaning in economical terms, somebody would say the supply is way exceeding the demand. The demand in this instance being the qualifying buyers that want to buy at that specific market bracket. All right. Now, it being a buyer's market also contributing to that. As please switch off your mic. Please switch on your mic. Thank you. Now, what has contributed to this is basically economical activity, nothing else. And the result of it is people not being able to buy. The economical activity being less, being a tight economy, all the financial planners will be able to advise on that. I'm also myself a financial planner, and have led eventually to that. Now, when there's less economic activity, there's less jobs. And even the ones that have jobs have bigger responsibilities. That has an effect on affordability. They cannot be able to pay all their accounts on time. That has an effect on their credit rating. So even the people that are willing to buy are not able to buy a big number. So the number that ticks all the boxes to can buy immediately is very few. Now, what is the benefit of that for you as the buyer? Is that you then have a choice. When you're looking for the property for 500,000 to buy, you've got 5-6 more properties to choose. And the sellers are aware of that. And therefore, if the seller had listed the property for 500,000, you then can be able to come in at it with an offer. This is business. There is nothing wrong in coming with a lower offer. You do not have any moral obligation, if I can put it like that, to say, but this person is losing their job, or this person has to sell quickly, this person, this is business. You are here to make an offer. Of course, when you negotiate, when you come to any negotiation, it has to be a win-win objective negotiation. This person wants to sell, you want to buy. Now, I am not just going to come and dance to a tune, because remember, I've got an objective. I'm investing and I need to buy 10% below market value. You are listing for 500,000. How much is it worth? No, it is worth 500,000. I'm only willing to put down an offer for so much. Because remember, you're also considering that there are other costs that you're going to incur, which you're getting into. Now, over negotiation, because this seller knows that there are not many buyers that are going to come about, the seller will agree, which is what makes it the buyer's market. The same thing when you are the buyer and it is a seller's market. The sellers do not negotiate their price. They put their price and they walk away. They take it or leave it approach most of the time. And these are the things that you will come across in the property market. Some people will say the property market is ruthless, the property market is this. But when you're working with people that know and you understand and you know your vision and your plan, the ruthlessness will not affect you, okay? Now, the second point is the time of the year. How does the time of the year affect the time when you buy? It is dependent on the type of investment you want to make. If you want to make a student accommodation type of investment, it is not wise to buy in November. And I'm sure all of us can understand, or October, November, simply because at that point in time, the students are already sorted out. in terms of their accommodation where they are staying, and they are looking at writing exams. In December, they are leaving. So that November and December month, chances are you will have no tenants. And therefore, you'll be paying for the bond from your pocket without any income, and then it will not be a day one investment or day one asset. So in that regard, that's when then the time of the year plays a role. Of course, the standard best time of the year is in January, simply because people are changing jobs. There's new students coming into town if you're going to student accommodation. If you're going to letting out rooms to working people, the working people have just found jobs. There's people moving out of town, moving into town. There is that movement that is coming about in January, a lot of movement. So that is the best time. Now, if you want to buy, is it wrong to buy a property during the year? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because then that is dependent on risk that one must assess. And that risk that you assess, you are being assisted by a professional to check on the type of investment you want to make. And then as you work that risk and make those calculations, then you will get to the place to say, yes, it is the right time to buy now. Of course, if you are buying for yourself as your primary residence, there's no worst time to buy. Any time is good time to buy for you. If it is a buyer's market and you're getting a best deal. All right, how? I generally advise for people in anything you do in life, get a professional. You do not know it as much as you think you know. As if somebody had to tell you. You think you know finances just because you studied, should I say, budgeting in your first year at university. You are not a financial planner. Get a financial planner to help with your finances. You are not a lawyer. You might have done a contract drafting course. So therefore, the best way then is to get a professional, even when you're purchasing a property. And the professional in purchasing in properties is estate agents. They've been given bad names, but I promise you there is so many things and so much that you can overlook and realize later. Remember, it is the buyer's market. The sellers want to sell. So if there are cracks in a property, the seller is going to cover them. But the professional knows how to find those cracks. If there are cracks in the structure is cracking. If there is a leakage in the water, in the pipes, the professional is going to be able to see those things to save you money. You understand? And to save you the stress of all these points and these things that we are discussing, because then this person is already a professional. They will have access to the valuation of the property. They will have access to all these things, okay? Second, you can also pick it up from the sellers. You are in a queue waiting for something, waiting for your meal at a restaurant. Well, you will not see a lot of that now in a long while. But you are in a queue at a bank or somewhere and you hear the person talking over the phone that they want to sell this place. They just want to move. There's your move. You can get directly from sellers. Even then, I would always advise that you involve a professional as soon as possible, whether the transferring attorney or an agent, just to guide the process. I'm sure you've heard too many stories of people that have done each other in on deals because I did not think this person would do that to me. I did not know, therefore I fell for it. But when there are professionals involved, the amount of that has been drastically reduced. Online, you can look online and be able to pick up deals. There is also an option of buying on auctions. There's many places of where you can buy, but each place needs a certain level of expertise. I will stick on this one of auctions just to touch on it, because I know many people have got an interest in it. Please get a professional before you buy an auction. Go do yourself a favor. Go to a few property auctions. You are allowed now with the I'm not sure now with the lockdown and things happening, who's going to be in I already know just before lockdown, the number of people coming in that are buying was restricted. But if the number of people to attend is not restricted, please attend an auction without the intention to buy. Go there, sit, watch, listen, ask questions. Just watch the environment, see what is what, because I promise you, The moment it starts to go, blah, 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 and it is your first time bidding, that guy is going to confuse you. You're going to forget the price. I'm sure those that have any auction experience, you've seen people that have over-purchased things because of maybe pride, because they're thinking I will not be outbid by this person, or because they're thinking whatever that they're thinking at that time. So rather get somebody to advise you in the process, and do not, when you're an investor, there's a mindset that you need to get rid of. The mindset that says, how much is it going to cost me? That mindset we need to get rid of as an investor. An investor's mindset says, how much is it going to make me? If I am going to pay a 500 rand to do something, how much is it going to make me as an investor? If you're looking at how much is it going to cost me, you are not going to invest. Great deals are not. Therefore, you need to focus on how much is this going to make me. Now, when you go on all of these things, most of them, the house, you are going to pay someone to do the work for you. But for agents, when you are the purchaser, you do not pay the agent yourself. The agent is paid for by the seller. So it is free for you. That's why as a buyer, it is your right to demand for an agent to be involved in the transaction. All right? Now, also, whose money am I going to use to make this purchase? Okay, that is a big webinar again on its own. However, at this point in time, the recommended best way, it is that you use somebody else's money. Now, there are many somebody else's. There is family, there is friends, there is societies, there is even now property societies that have started about 2-3 years ago. There is so many things that have come up. Still remains the best way to use somebody else's money is the bank, for many reasons. One, you will not get a call in the middle of the month somewhere, someone saying, hey, my child was chased out of school, the payment I was expecting did not come, can you please advance me some 20,000 from the 500,000 I gave you to buy that flat? I really need cash to put pressure and stress on you. And the societies, they are also good and proper. They demand high cash, should I say, cash payments from your side, which they take a lot from your cash flow. So the banks, it is not personal, it is business. The last person you saw that was processing your home loan is not the person who's going to talk to you if you are behind. Sometimes it happens. It is not, so it is less stress, and it is not your money. You are using somebody else's money. I mean, to make money, who would not do that? To use somebody else's money to make money. Now, what will the bank need? They will need a good credit record. Most of the financiers, they will need a good credit record, unless you are buying a commercial property. Commercial property is offices, it is hotels, B&Bs, big amount of flats, or rather huge amount of flats, or big complexes. Those are the type of commercial properties. Now, those ones don't always use credit record, they do, but they mostly focus on the feasibility of the deal itself. Now, on the feasibility, on personal and private residential property, they look at a credit record. A credit record is maintained and looked at. It's a variety of things that are involved in it. But the best thing to do, again, talk to a financial planner who is then going to help you to work your credit record and keep it strong and healthy. Just because you do not have an adverse listing against your name, it does not mean your credit record is good. And that just because you have a bad adverse listing against your name, it does not mean your credit record is that bad either. Now, the credit record system worldwide is the same. The system does not allow you to be over-indebted, neither does it allow you to be under-indebted. When you are over-indebted, the banks will not be willing to offer you finance. When you are under-indebted, the banks will not trust you to offer you finance. Simply because when you're under-indebted, the banks work on their calculations are based on a 20-year term interest rate. Now, on a 20-year term for a 500,000 house, when you fully paid off, you might end up having paid it as 900,000. Some instances, depending on the interest rate that you were charged, you might even end up paying even over $1 million when you calculate your installments over the 20 years. So that's what the bank looks at. Now, if you do not have a sufficient credit record for them to look at your track record or your behavior, then they cannot trust you, because you might take the bond today, the home loan today, and then within a couple of weeks or months, you pay it off. Now, they did not make their money, they did not, so therefore they have to see your track record. When you're over-indebted, we all know why the banks will not give us when you're over-indebted. Now, who are the involved parties? There is a string of involved parties when you are purchasing a property. There is 3 attorneys involved. There is the seller. There is the bank if you are buying through the bank. There are valuators from the bank. There is the municipality for the rates and clearance. There is SARS. There is so many parties that are involved in the process that one has to go through, and all of these parties are there 90% to protect you as the purchaser. It is only 10% where they protect the seller, and that is the responsibility of the transferring attorneys. We will go through these parties as we go, as we get along, if we have time, or as you ask questions as well. Now, the transferring duration, because the process involves so many people, there is an average transfer process period of between 8 weeks and 12 weeks. That is an average process. That is if there are no complications. What are the complications that can happen? Right in the middle of the transfer, the seller dies. That's a complication, because then the transaction takes a turn. Will it continue? Depending on the stage where it was, yes, it will continue. What are other complications? As the municipality goes to check and to give the rates clearance certificate, they discover that the meter is not reading well, or there is a leakage in the meter. Now, why does the municipality go and do meter readings before, during the transfer process? To ensure that you as the purchaser does not buy a property that has outstanding rates and account from the previous owner. They have to issue a certificate to say the property owes nothing, so that you as the new owner start from zero, not from an account that is owed by somebody else. Should a person say you need to pay their previous account, under normal circumstances, that person is ripping you off, unless it was a negotiation tool, which sometimes you do as an investor. Because remember, this person was a stressed seller, or we call it a stressed property. Now, the property is dilapidated, is abandoned, no one is staying there. Chances are those people are not paying their municipal rates, they're not paying their water account. Even if there's a leak, no one is there to detect it. So therefore, then what happens is you can also negotiate to say, all right, let's go have a look at the amount, and then I'll settle it. Now, that's if you willingly offer to pay it, and it is part of your negotiation. But besides that, you're not supposed to pay for that. So now, because that is just one of the parties that are involved, the SARS transfer duties. So all those parties have to prepare documents to be able to go and do what we call lodgement at the deeds office. And that is the last stage of registering the property. In actual fact, strange enough, it only takes 7 days to register a property. So all these other weeks, it is all those parties preparing for that 7 days for the deeds office. A deeds office is the home affairs for the properties, I always say. That is where all properties are registered. That's a registrar of all properties in South Africa. Okay, and then the fees to pay. Now, this one I will spend a bit of about 2-3 minutes on it, because this is part of you preparing, because this is coming out of your pocket. It is remember I said there are 3 attorneys. Now, the third attorney you do not have to pay. Who are these attorneys? The first attorney is the transferring attorney. It is the attorney that is changing names from X to Y, that is changing ownership. Now, let me state there as well. What is it to change ownership? When you purchase a car through bank finance, they do not change ownership to you. They change it from the previous owner to the bank. So the car belongs to the bank for as long as you are paying for it. It is not yours. It is the bank's car. That is why when you do not pay, the bank says we are repossessing. We are taking back what is ours. Now, the only thing they allow you to do is to be able to change the license disc every year to renew it. That is why that vehicle, you cannot sell it. It is not yours. You can trade it in, because when you trade it in, the dealer whom you trade it in with consults the owner, that is the bank, to say how much does this person owe on this car, and this is how much you're going to offer. Will you take this deal or not? Then the bank says yes, and then they continue. So you cannot sell it. However, a property is registered into your names. You can sell it. Now, with the car, the bank has the car as their leverage for the money they gave you. So that is why they do not change ownership, because they are leverage. But with property, they change ownership. So what is their leverage? Because now the bank is giving you 500,000. You have got the house in your names. What's stopping you from taking the house and selling it and making 500 profit and running away from the bank for the rest of your life? No, the banks are smarter than that. So what then they do is they take the 500,000 home loan that you then have been approved by the bank, and they attach it to the house, which is now, which they're about to register into your names. And that attachment process is called a bond. Now that attachment process is so that the bank does not lose their leverage, so that you are not able to sell that property without paying the bank, though it is your property. You then have to satisfy the bank's debt before then you can sell the property. And that's the second attorney that does that, the bond registration against the property. And those are bond registration attorneys that are appointed for by the bank. You pay for them. The third attorney, it is attorney that is cancels the bond that might have been registered previously against the property by the seller. But that is not your payment. You do not pay that attorney. Now, the third payment for you might be transfer duty. Now, every year when the Minister of Finance gives out a budget speech, they speak of the transfer duty, should I say bracket, where if a property is below this amount, you do not pay transfer duty. In this year's budget speech, that amount is 1 million. So from the 1st of March, that amount was 1 million. That then meant any property that you purchase below 1 million, you do not pay transfer duty. So if the seller is saying, I'm selling for 1 million, you must negotiate. You must negotiate for 999.99 cents. It must not get to 1 million to avoid transfer duty. Now, if it goes beyond, you have to pay transfer duty. Now, those are the payments that you must prepare for. How much are these payments? They go at a sliding scale, depending on the price that you are purchasing the property for. In some of the websites with the bank, at YDT, we help you with the estimate amount at the time that you are making the purchase. All right? As we move on, now you have prepared. You know the deal that you need to get. You have now prepared yourself. Now you need to make an informed decision. Now, in that informed decision, you then need to look at a couple of things when you're making that decision. Just a minute, please. Now, those couple of things you look at is the risk. What is the risk that I am going to incur or I'm incurring in this transaction? Risk is many aspects. But for you as an investor means, my tenants. Can I have tenants? Will I always have tenants? What happens when I do not have tenants? What type of tenants do I need to have to minimize the risk? What type of income, rent, do I need to charge to be able to do to minimize the risk? Now, one of the best ways that we always advise to do is that you spread your risk in the income of your tenants. In other words, you do not buy a 500,000 property and put in one tenant, unless the area you bought in and the reasons you did require you to do so. And that tenant is a very strong and reliable tenant. However, it still stands a risk. Because what happens when that tenant cannot pay? We are in the lockdown currently. And TPN, which is Tenant Payment Network, which is a source that you can also go just to have a an outlook of tenant and rental payment statistics, has released a report on Monday or Tuesday. The report was saying only 63% of tenants had somehow paid their rent, and not fully paid their rent, by the way. Now, that automatically the other almost 40% did not pay, and the others, part of the 60-something%, did not pay in full. Of course, this is a different time, nobody expected this, but you get to understand and work out the risk. Now, if then you spread your risk, you have a different number and different types of tenants, that 60% will at least cover the basics. It will at least cover your bond, maybe the rates and taxes, maybe the levies. Now, we look into that when we assist you then, if you are our client, as to which one takes priority, which one must never not be missed, and which one, when in a time of crisis, can take the back seat in terms of payments, which one can be done like this so that does not affect your portfolio going forward. That is part of portfolio management that we do at YDT Group. Now, the second point is the monthly financial implications. I've already touched on that, on the risk. Now, the monthly financial implications, you look at them on your side and on the investment side. On your side, you say, should there be no tenants paying? Can I be able to carry this? And if yes, for how long? With any business, there is a risk to carry. All those people that have been saying, you can never go wrong with property, I can assure you almost today that none of them is a property investor with at least 6 years of experience. It is the people that all they know is they have the knowledge from their experience as tenants. Because they did their calculations when they were tenants, they did this, they did not look into other things that are there. Like any business, you will have risk in property. Yes, the risk is less because that property cannot be stolen. The risk is less because the property accumulates in value. The risk is less because you can control many things. But there is risk in any business that you are going to do. You understand? So then you look at that for properties so that you can be able, in relation for financially, so that you can be able to mitigate the risk or minimize the risk. Or with your profit that you get every month, you can then be able to plan for that risk should there be a situation. Like now, if you're making enough profit over the previous months, when this month of lockdown happens, you are then able to draw back from the profits that you have been investing aside to then put them up to say, all right, now it is time to bring back the profits so that it does not affect me or my portfolio. All right. Then you also ask yourself questions from the previous slides that you have checked on in terms of, is it the right price, right location, right purchase, all those other questions. And then you must be ready to act fast on your decision at all times. Because property is an industry of timing. Mostly when you're an investor, it's an industry of timing and timing and timing. Like I said, now it is a buyer's market. If you are ready with a good credit record and good everything, it is the time to strike. The statistics by TPN that 60-something% of tenants paid is actually not far from the normal. The normal statistics of tenants payment rate is actually 66%. So there was only a 4% drop, just like in BNBs, the occupational rate is about 60% on average, but they are the ones who are hard hit now because the BNBs had to close. But if you're not running a BNB, you are then you are not far from the average. So now is the time to act. If you're ready now, your credit record is good, everything you want to buy, now is the time to act. Though it's a decision that lasts, that will affect you or last for 20 years if you take that long to pay, which is another point that we can discuss another day to say, how can you pay the bond quicker? Most people share only one side. There's so many sides that we can help you with. Now, you need to be patient and be ready so that when the time comes, you are then ready to act. And once you act, you go. You understand? So now is the time to act, and that is why I'm doing these webinars, to say it is now the time to act. Now, I even have clients right now who are purchasing properties during lockdown. They have not seen them because they understand that as an investor, All I need is just to know that the property is going to make me money. Others were able to see before the lockdown. Others know the place. So which is one of the things, as an investor, your eye must always be open. You never know when might be an opportunity for you to move in. So those people are buying now. And guess what? They are paying way less for those properties. And why are they paying less? Simply because the seller knows. Remember, it's a buyer's market. So the sellers want to sell. The sellers who did not plan and do their things correctly are now suffering. And now, even on top of it, the seller knows this buyer has not gone to look at the property. So the buyer can say, no. It's either put it as a condition on the contract, or the buyer can say, no conditions. I know how to calculate my risk in that complex or in that area. So therefore, I'm coming 20, 30, 40,000 below because I haven't seen the property. And those are the things that you continue to use against you. Now you can imagine a 500,000 property right now, during this lockdown, whether even after the 1st of May, you could actually get it for 450 or even less, depending on the areas you want to buy and the type of sellers. Now, unless of course the seller would have been a wiser seller like yourself, who had prepared for a time like this to say what happens when there are no tenants. All right, now you have already purchased your property. You've made your move, you've made your deal. YDT Group is managing, help you buy, you're managing your property, and the attorneys, which is our in-house attorneys, they've transferred your property. Now, you are now at a place to say, do I repeat this process again or do I stop? I've got my investment property, or I've got my primary residence. Do I repeat or do I stop? You need to ask that question every time before you make the sale. Every time, or every time after you make the sale. So this then comes with constant and continuous evaluation or introspection of your portfolio to say, do I stop or do I continue? The first question, these are the types of questions that will guide you to be able to make that decision going forward. What is your vision with your portfolio? Are you just building 2 properties for your 2 children so that when you die, your 2 kids each have a house as an inheritance, which is, there's nothing wrong with that if that's your vision? Are you planning to build an empire? Are you planning to have 20 properties? Are you planning to, you have to have a clear vision. You cannot just go with what happens. Because if you go with what happens, you will not be deliberate with how you set up your portfolio. You will not diversify it properly. You will not be able to buy using the right entities that go in hand with what you want to achieve. So that plays a role. Do you want to grow a portfolio? That plays a role. And the most important one, what are your previous performances? Previous performances by yourself or your portfolios, rather yourself and your portfolios, and lastly, by the market. By yourself, what do I mean by that? By yourself, it means that you might not have been disciplined enough with the profit that you're making. And therefore, you need to relook your strategy. You do not have enough coffers. You do not have enough backup. You do not have enough anything, because every time the money comes, you have been spending it. It's been your spending money. Now, with that being the case, do you want to continue doing that? Long run, it is not sustainable. Because then during times like lockdown or any market difficult times, that then means you will not be able to last that storm. You will not be able to last that storm. You will at some point collapse in that storm. So you check that the performance of the properties themselves. How have these properties been performing? Is it because of their geographic area, location? Is it because of the city? Is it because of the type of tenants? Is it because of the managing agent? Is it because of how I was personally managing or the management of the property? So you look at that, at the performances before. Lastly, you look at the market itself to say, does the market allow me to continue? In 2008, when the markets collapsed, that is the time that most of us took off. And the people that lost during that time, it is multiple property owners. The primary resident property owners did not lose a lot, except if they lost a job. But the people that lost a lot was the multiple property owners who were not on top of their portfolios. Because then what happened is the interest rate went up, the repo rate went up, the cost of living went up, the interest rates at the bank went up. That meant that now they're paying much more. The tenants, they cannot now go back to the tenants and say, oh, because the interest rate has gone up, no, so therefore, sorry, we must increase. No, your increase is annual at a specific time in a year, once off. So now the tenants could not pay the full rent, so they were stressed. And therefore, they had to let go of their properties at that time. Now, that is why then you look at the market. You look at the market and you check, is it the right time for me to continue? Is it the right time for me to downscale? Is it the right time for me to? And when we help you build a portfolio, we help you then with exit strategies in a way that at any given moment, you can exit without feeling the loss. As we move on to the next slide. Okay. Investment benefits. Now, these are the things you need to look at. The why is the biggest factor. Why are you investing? It increases in value and decreases, the debt decreases. That is if you are servicing it properly and efficiently every month. The security for future investments as well. You can use the other property to buy another property. That's when then the compound interest also starts to work in your favor. That's where then growing starts to become easier and quicker. With property portfolios, the toughest time is within the first 2 properties and the first 5 years, depending on your investment strategies. Whether are you aggressive in doing this thing or are you conservative? You do one in a while, one property once in a while. Then it takes that time for you to be able to start to pick up momentum. But once you pick up momentum, you've got multiple properties, it is much easier for you to continue to buy and to grow much faster and much bigger. If that is your vision, of course. Now, I will give you a quick, simple example, and this is a strategy that is used by most financial planners, that you bought that property for 500,000 in 2020. 2025, you are starting to knock down that interest. Now you're starting to knock down the debt. You've dealt with the interest already, which takes between 3.5 years to 5 years to start decreasing from the amount you bought from, which is to kill the interest. Now you are at that time, and your value, the value of the property is now 650. The debt is now 450. Now the compound interest starts to come and work in your favor. Debt 450, value 650. Monthly installment, the same. Let's say that time your income was 7,000 when you started in 2020. Now it increases by 10% every year. It is 2025, maybe 9,000-10,000 at that time, your monthly income, but you are still paying the same overheads, maybe increasing by a slight margin because of the municipal rates and the levies. But the bank does not increase unless the interest rates increase or unless you chose a fixed rate. Now you have got an extra income every month. You still have got another maybe 800. Let's say the expenses were 6.2. You only had 800 rands a month at 2020. 2025, it is now giving you 9,000. Now you have 3,000 something extra monthly. That can also count as your income, by the way, to qualify on the next. Now you've got 200,000 that you can capitalize on that very same property. Now imagine then when you have that multiplied by 10, all of a sudden you have your 2.5 million worth of that you can capitalize. And now that it also increases your balance sheet, your net worth. That can But in any case, this is not financial planning. This is just, I was just giving you that just to show for future investment. And then we will then be able to help you in this whole process at YDT Group, because our motto is simply to create wealth and build legacies. And we help you from the beginning to the end, whether you know something or you don't know anything. We have in-house estate agents, in-house bond originators, we have in-house transferring attorneys, in-house property developers, we have in-house insurance, the FSP registered for all insurance purposes. So once you are serviced with us, you do not go anywhere else, and you only deal with one. through the whole process, will help you and to guide you through the whole process of what you are doing. And that's why we are the world's first, all right? Conclusion, the summary, all right? This is a buyer's market. You prepare yourself. You ask yourself questions about the deal that you want to do. You prepare your credit record. You check whose money you want to use. You check if the deal is right, if the price, if the location, if everything is correct. And then you then start to plan towards your buying your next property. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now take questions before we head towards closing. You can unmute your mic yourself. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
We raised hands.
All right.
Hello, Yabi.
I'm going to look at the raising of the hands so that I go in that order. But in the meantime, Tato, you are on the floor. You can go first. It's okay.
Good day. I just want to find out if, let's say, you buy a property for 1.7 million,
yes,
and you pay the 1 million as a deposit.
Yes, ma'am.
When it comes to transfers, are you still going to pay the transfers?
Yes, ma'am.
Because now the loan that you got is only 700 rand from the bank.
All right. Are you done? Sorry, I almost cut you there with your question.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Yes,
yes, you are still going to pay transfer fees. Remember, the transfer fees are based on the price of the property, not on how you got the finance. So the transfer fees are based on 1.7 million because you are buying the property for 1.7 million. The only fees that is going to be less is the bond fees, because then the bond fees are your bond is not 1.7 million, it is 700,000, and that fee is calculated solely on the scale or on the bond that which you are going to register.
And also, if the valuation was 2.3, can I ask the registration amount to be 2.3?
Yes, you can if the attorney agrees. However, they will then charge you on the 2.3 amount, on the 2.3 transfer fee. Now, there's many things that they are going to look at. It's not a clean, straight out yes or no. You can ask it, but then the attorney might look into many things because it depends on what property this was. Because it can have other implications, because the attorneys could be seen or implicated as inflating the value or the price of the property. Because, for example, I'll give an example so that I qualify my statement. If this was a liquidation property, you are buying a property that used to be owned by Company X, and Company X is under liquidation, and therefore the banks and the liquidators have to pay back the creditors. The property sale is 1.7 million, and they register for 2.3 million. That's 600,000. The liquidators might be in trouble for that amount, because then the liquidators will then ask the attorney, where is the 600,000? You understand? Because then the registered amount at this office is the amount that will have to be recorded in the liquidation process right up until the end. So it is not a simple yes or no or a straightforward. However, yes, you can ask for it. I'm trying to see the hands properly. Please excuse me and how to do this hands thing. But in the meantime, you can go next, Tobisa. Tobisa?
Hello, everyone. Yes. What I wanted to ask, you're saying it's a buyer's, people wanting to, so the negotiation price you're going to get off whatever, or is it also based on the repo rate and the decreased rate at the moment, because the prime lending rate now is 7.75, right? So is it based on that? Because I'm thinking now, what if in the next 2 years, the 7.5, we don't know how much is it going to increase by. I don't know if you understand my question.
I'm with you.
So if it, what are we basing the buyer's market on the amount you can negotiate, or on the actual prime rate at the moment?
On actually all the factors. It is a buyer's market. It is actually the first time in a long while that it is a buyer's market on all fronts. When I say on all fronts, I mean the interest rate, the sellers are being stressed to sell, the more people opting to buy because their credit record are bad, they cannot, to rent because they cannot buy. It is on all fronts basically as it stands now. So it is the ideal situation for the buyer's market. You can then decide as an investor individually, what are you going to base your decision on to move at this point in time?
Okay.
I hope that answers the question.
Okay. It does, partially.
Which part was not answered so that we can...
What I'm thinking, okay, I can understand on all fronts. And then I'm thinking if I base it on the decreased prime rate at the moment, is it not taking a high risk because I don't know how much the prime rate is going to increase when the lockdown is over, but the prime rate will increase now by 3%. Do you understand?
I'm with you. Now, what happens then in that instance, you see, that is why then it is very important to seek advice, and we can be able to help you with that. Because then what happens is we then have to personalize based on your risk appetite. We have to personalize your portfolio. Because if you are basing it on interest rate, you can work and manipulate the interest rate. You can choose the interest rate. You can work the interest rate. So, but that then depends on your appetite and what matters to you the most. And we have to assess your personal risk appetite and your, basically it's what they would call analysis. And all right, I hope that answers it this time.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Can we move on to the next person, please, guys? Just don't laugh where you are. I am having challenges to manage the hands. I'm learning this technology things. So please, can I just pass so that we become fair in our asking questions? Can the next question please unmute the mic, one person at a time, and ask your question, please.
Mr. Zali, Brian.
Yes, Mr. Brian.
And good afternoon, everyone. I just have two questions. Does this general rule or knowledge that if you have a bond with Bank A, let's say for more than 5 years, you can request for funds or for whatever you want to do. Now you decide to shift to Bank B. Will I start from scratch now that I moved to Bank B? I've shifted to Bank B. And I also want to find out from YDT. Does YDT assist in terms of shifting from Bank A to Bank B? Thanks.
All right, thank you, sir. Look, it depends on the amount you ask when you get to Bank B. You do not start from scratch automatically. It is up to you. Let me explain how it can work, maybe one or two scenarios. You have paid your bond with Bank A for 10 years. You have bought that 500,000 property. 10 years later, your bond balance is 260,000. Your value of the property is now 700,000. You now want to go get finance. It depends on which amount you want to get. If you want to get the same 260,000 that you owe at Bank A, now let's come back first before we get there. Let's first define the terms of Bank A. Your monthly installment, for argument's sake, let's say it is now 5,000 with Bank A. That is, you've been paying 5,000 for the last 10 years. Argument's sake, no interest has been going up and down. It's been the same amount right through. You are only left with 260. Now, when you go to Bank B and you say, I want the same 260, Bank B, yes, is because the terms of a home loan are 20 years upwards. It is very rare and in few cases where they take less than 10 years, 20 years. They give you 20 years. Yes, you are starting from scratch in terms of years because you are left with 20 years again. However, they will calculate your 260 for the 20 years, which might now mean it is now 2,500. So you will now pay 2,500 for 20 years. If then you say, I want more, I want the whole 700,000 that is worth my property right now, they will then settle the bond A's 260. There will be change for 440 for Bank B. And then you will now start paying 7,000 for the next 20 years with Bank B. You understand? So in terms of years, yes, you can say you are starting from scratch. But in terms of amount, it is up to you. And even that, we can then, answering the second question in mixing it with the first one, at YDT, we can help you apply for that. And we can help you in best how to manage it or how to make sure that you still stay to the same 10 years that you had that was remaining on Bank A. I hope that answers your question, sir.
Thank you, sir. Answered.
Thank you. I see now. I can see the hands. Oh, thank you. You see now, I'm a fast learner. I see Mr. Tito Amudisa said, please ask your question. Your hand was up. Mr. Mudisa? All right, seems like Mr. Mudisa might be a bit further from the mic. Do we have any other questions at this point in time from anyone else? I'm looking at the hands. I see no further hands. Any questions? Then that would mean everything was clear, I would believe, if then there are no further questions. You still have me for another...
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. You mentioned that December time is not the right time to purchase or to buy a house. I just want to find out from you when exactly is the right time to buy apart from this COVID period. What will be the right time to buy?
All right. Thank you. Remember, I was saying depending on the type of investment or the purchase you are making. If you are buying for yourself to stay into the house, there is no bad time in terms of the year now, the months and the period of the year. You can buy your own house at any given time. If anything, some times of the year might be to your advantage. Now, I was talking based on the investment you want to make. And I was making an example if you want to put in students at that time because they are about to go home or they are at home. But remember, in this buying, there's another element that you need to check. It takes, remember, 8 to 12 weeks to transfer, which is 2 months to 3 months. Now, you will only start to have control in normal cases of the property after it is registered into your names. The November buying time, it is not the time to be signing documents to say I'm buying. It is the time for the property to register into your names because soon you will start paying the bond. Now, the best time, like I said, in general terms now is January, or if you are buying for yourself, any time of the year. But it is strictly dependent on the type of investment. For example, I was helping somebody purchase a property in a town not far from Bloemfontein called Tromsburg. And in that purchase, it was done when the hospital was being built. Now, that is the best time. There is no, you cannot put it in months, whether January or February or March. You can put it on completion of the project because that purchase was made dependent based on the completion of the hospital, because once the hospital is completed, the hospital will employ people that will need a place to stay. So if the hospital is completed in December, then December is the best time for the property to register. So we had to time the transfer and the purchase in such a way that it goes in line with that market that the person wanted to invest towards. So there is hardly ever a straightforward answer for all investments for all months. Yes, ma'am. We can of course customize it for you based on your investments that you are considering to make. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Are you going to leave us with your contact details, maybe?
Yes, I am going to. You see, those are the things of technology, but I'm going to write on the comments. I will write my cell phone number and my email address so that then we can communicate via that going forward to make it easy for everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, Mekinele. Any other questions? I see a hand that went up. Adeniyi, sir, your hand is up. Do you have a question, sir? Mr. Adeniyi?
I'm trying to unmute. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how are you today?
Very well, sir. Thank you. How are you doing?
Okay, yeah, fine. It's good enough to have jumped on this session. I'm actually not based in South Africa, but it's interesting to, get a dive in as to what the property market is like and all of that. So I wanted to just find out, in looking at assessing finance or the other prerequisite conditions, is there anything specific for a foreigner that is interested in prospecting for property in South Africa?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Adeniyi. Yes, I know you are calling from Nigeria. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
Sir, look, yes, you can, number one, purchase a property in South Africa as a non-South African citizen. Whether based in South Africa or not based in South Africa, the South African law does allow you. Now, when it comes to financing, that is a total different thing altogether. You can get financing. Most of the time it goes with different terms and conditions. And because it is all risk-based, basically. That is why it differs. Because for a Yabela who is in South Africa, who is South African, he is more likely to want to take care of that bond or of that repayment because it's going to affect his credit in South Africa. Most probably it's his residence in South Africa, and so Yabela has more reasons to keep paying for his home loan in South Africa. So when you are not a South African citizen or in South Africa, there is less attachment to the country. So therefore the banks then tend to minimize their risk, whether by increasing your interest rate or whether by decreasing the percentage that are willing to finance you with.
Okay.
And it depends again on the type of property that you're buying. Because if it is a commercial property, it is a different game again altogether. So we can assist you, sir, to ascertain what transaction you want to do and even help you get the financing for that transaction.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Clear.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? I have just put in my email address on the comments. I am now putting up my cell phone number so that everybody can have it when it's time to be in touch with us. I will not direct you to our website. We are upgrading it because we are now venturing out internationally as well. So we need to make it to be able to speak to outside markets as well.
Mr. Zali.
Mr. Bransley.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Can I shoot?
Yes, I do. And we're going to take 3 more questions up until 2 o'clock. There is another engagement that is starting at 2 o'clock. So up until 2 o'clock, Can I just see by show of hands so that we can already know who else is going to ask next before you ask Mr. Brian? Please excuse me there. Mr. Mutisa's hand is still up. I'm not sure if he's still interested in asking the question. Are there any other people who are going to ask questions after Mr. Brian? Seemingly not. Sir, you are the last question for the day. Please, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I must say thank you for the opportunity, sir, and the information. Thank you. I really appreciate it. My question is, what factors to consider if one has to or decides to move out of their house to go and rent? For example, I am paying a bond, then I decide, no man, let me just get myself a townhouse for rent that I will rent, and then this one I let it out. So what factors should one consider? Thank you.
Okay. It will then depend on your objective to leave your house, to go and want to rent where you want to rent. Why are you leaving your house? How much is your rent going to be? What are you hoping to achieve with your house when you leave it? How long are you planning to do this? Is this indefinite up until you buy another primary residence again? Are you planning to come back again at another time? So this is one of the questions that that does not have a general or generic blanket approach answer. We will have to assess the situation, be able to assist to say which way is best and what then can you do with that property that you're leaving behind. That's the best way I can answer the question, say, because then we will have to go into detail with your personal and needs and everything, and that's not the platform to do so. Do you understand, though?
100%.
Thank you, sir. Please be in touch. Yes, yes, sir. Please excuse me. I saw once Brian started talking that there was one last hand for Kobisa. So after Kobisa, then there will be no hands, and then we will release it. We have Kobisa. You have 30 seconds to ask your question.
One more question. You mentioned that you must always use someone else's money, right? So going back to the property of 500,000, you said we'll buy a property of 500,000. What if I had the 500,000 rand cash? Would it still be better for me maybe to invest that 500,000, negotiate maybe an interest rate, and then go open a bond and pay the bank? Like, what is the view on that? Because a lot of people will say, no, never buy a house cash, invest the money, and then you negotiate a rate, and then you take that rate, you pay your bond with that. And then at the end of the 20-year period, you've got the money, you've got, I don't know if you understand my question.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay. That is why the benefit of YDT, we have financial planners as well to assist and look into finances as well, so that we incorporate your personal financial planning with your portfolio planning. It will look, there is absolutely nothing wrong in paying cash. There are people who like safety and security. I don't want debt, I don't want anything. I just want to settle and pay and know that it's only mine. However, we again look at your objectives. I will give an answer of one scenario, but then it does not necessarily that's what will apply in your situation. You can buy a property for 500,000 cash, pay it off. You don't owe the bank, you don't owe anyone. Your 7,000 monthly income is purely, fully your profit, except you must pay the municipal rates and the levies of the complex if it's a sectional title. Then you can later on finance that property to get the money back. Or when you buy a bigger property, you can use that then as part of the security in terms of going faster. You remember I spoke of the bracket that when the compound interest starts to build up for you. Cash is one of the accelerators to get to compound interest working for you. So when you have cash, now it's how you use it that matters the most. So if you get cash, it does accelerate your compound interest benefits with one of the examples I've just mentioned earlier, or other ones, because you could still continue buy with banks, but you've got cash ready for transfer fees. You've got cash ready for if you're going to put in people that you need to furnish the place, you've got cash to furnish the place, which then you can increase. You've got cash to put in extra infrastructure into the property, which can increase the value and your income. So cash can work in many instances to accelerate. Now, what matters the most is what are you using it for at that specific moment in that specific transaction or at any given time. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the end of our podcast. I want to really say thank you for taking time out and your data to come and listen. Yes, it is value for money. Normally, we do these things for a whole lot of money. That is why most of you have never seen me do it before, but I will continue to do it in this format for a while. I'm going to ask one favor. I was advised that I must take a picture of everyone in here. Can I ask that you all put on the videos if we can, so that then I can take a picture of all of us that are still left on the conversation. Even yourself, you can take a picture, advertise, say something about it, whatever you wish to do. Yes. Oh, I see. At least I'm not the only one whose hair was not cut. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. Yes, I've taken a picture. Anyone else can take a picture. Thank you very much. I will make it a standard time. Let's have a date, because of the build up of things. Let's have a date next week at 12:30. It will be the same time, the same duration. However, do not have to wait for that to start your portfolio planning. Because remember, your finances are different, your objectives are different. So you do not need to wait for that time. So that at that time, like today, we are just addressing